This brief video is a review of the cooperative learning model. One of the things that I would like to emphasize that really distinguishes cooperative learning in the classroom versus just random group work is, and I want to underscore this, intentionality, or the word intentional. That there's an intentional outcome when you are using cooperative learning. And with random group work, a lot of times it is how you just work together and finish the assignment. So as we progress through this brief video, I'm going to use the acrostic with the root word intentional. So considering intentional as the root word for this acrostic, I want you to look at the first one, invested preparation time. And if you think about it, with all the models that we've considered so far in this particular course, certainly there's a significant amount of preparation time and upfront preparation that is a responsibility of the teacher. In order for this to be effective, and as with any model or method in the classroom, a teacher really needs to sit down and think in terms of their learning outcomes, what they want students to be able to master, what are the assessments that are aligned to those outcomes, and then does the cooperative learning model really support that? Is this the best method to use? So there's that invested amount of preparation time. The negative consequences of inappropriate preparation or a lack of organization. Cooperative learning is really one of those models that I'm not sure you can over-organize. There are some of the models and methods that we've looked at that if you do too much up front, you kind of spoil the inquiry, or you may spoil the game or the simulation. But with cooperative learning, organization is key and essential, and usually there are negative consequences if there's not enough organization. One of the things that cooperative learning, and again, very similar to some of the previous models, is cooperative learning is no different, is the time consumption in the classroom. Now, this is again part of the organization and part of the upfront planning. We may not know, unless we've used a cooperative learning model for something similar to what we're doing in the classroom, how much time it may actually require. So time management and transitioning students from one activity using the cooperative model to the next thing that they need to be working on collaboratively, that's key and essential. And it may take time to understand that element of transitioning. Certainly there are experiential learning opportunities with cooperative learning. You can explore and experiment, and I think this is exactly where, if we think back to problems-based learning, or very similar to problems-based learning, project-based learning, then cooperative learning does a nice job of blending itself with both of those. The problems-based learning is really driven by the problem. It involves a lot of inquiry, whereas the cooperative learning is the collaborative piece. I mentioned, if you think back to the problems-based learning, that doesn't have to be done in a collaborative environment. I think it's best done in a collaborative environment, but it's not something that's required. Whereas if you go through this and you think through some of the details of cooperative learning, certainly you can see the relationship it has with problems-based learning or projects-based learning. There are always new opportunities for peers to engage with each other, to recognize strengths and weaknesses and challenges and work together to confront those challenges, whatever they may be, whether it's group dynamics or whether the challenges may be presented by whatever the cooperative learning experience is on which it's focused, the content. So there are always those opportunities for peers to engage with each other in new opportunities. The tolerance through collaboration, and this is key. Certainly we know in post-high school settings there's going to be opportunities, required associations with colleagues that can present some very significant dynamics, and these cooperative learning opportunities in a controlled classroom setting certainly allow for a better understanding and a level of maturity, whether it's social maturity or academic maturity on behalf of the students, to be able to understand the element of collaboration and cooperation with each other. recognizing interdependence between group members, realizing that I can't do everything, so I rely on other people. Very similar to teamwork. If you've been in an organized sports team or in a choir or fine arts organization, then it's that mentality or that mindset that, look, I have a responsibility, and if I don't do that or I don't perform that, then I'm letting my other group members down, with the understanding that there's an interdependence, that they too must be responsible for their assigned work or their contributions to the finished product. Organizing the outcome. Again, this goes back to a little bit of the preparation, that you want to have a definitive and intentional outcome as you begin a cooperative learning opportunity. What is that going to look like? And if it's maybe this is the first time you've used cooperative learning for a particular task and you don't necessarily have a vivid understanding of what the outcome or the product's going to be, particularly in problems-based learning. Problems-based learning can really be authentic and it can be creative for the student groups, but you may not have a clear picture of what that outcome for that group's going to look like. So I think there aligned assessments and assessments along the way, checkpoints along the way. This is something cooperative learning can be done within a one classroom environment, but it also can be, if it's associated with something like problems-based learning, can take several classroom times to be able to finish and complete. So kind of having a planning backwards mentality of what does that finished product look like. And again, it may not be the specifics, but more you align your assessment, let's say in a rubric that assesses big pieces of what you want that outcome to be. And the outcomes can all look differently as long as they include those big pieces. So that's where assessment can be very much easily aligned with the outcomes in these different models, including cooperative learning. The natural patterns of interaction between students and the materials and the resources, realizing we always try to push students to recognize and be authentic with their research. This is a great opportunity for them to explore, credible sources, the materials that are necessary in order to complete the assignment or the finished product, and then to be resourceful. To be conservative with things that they may not have an enormous amount of, including time, or to be resourceful in the respect that I don't know all the things that your group may need, so you figure it out and then find them, and putting that responsibility on their shoulders, depending on the age group, of course. Assembling the products, making sure that those products are aligned to the original outcomes. Mentioned that a little bit earlier in regards to the organizing the purpose. Certainly you want those outcomes to have a clear and intentional focus, and then the assessment to be aligned with that. Rubric development is very important, obviously, in something like this, because that rubric, you could have 9 different teams that have 9 different outcomes, but or 9 different products, but your outcomes were the same for each group, and your assessing rubric is the same. See, I think that's where teachers make a huge mistake, thinking that, well, if I give them too much control, they're going to give me 9 different things. Yes, that's called differentiation. That's called empowered learning. And no, it doesn't create more work for you if you've done a nice job of developing a rubric that is aligned to your original outcome, because whatever they produce has the components that you're looking at and you're assessing with your rubric. Then learning outcomes that can be addressed maybe, again, with multiple products. And I think this is big because this is, again, underscoring the idea of differentiation. That those teams you're not leading them to one, maybe sometimes, kind of depends on, again, what you're using the cooperative learning model for, but you're not always looking for the exact same product from the different groups. And I think that's important, and it not only underscores the idea of differentiation, but it empowers them, their choices, it pushes their thinking, and quite frankly, it forces them to be mature, and it forces them also to be sometimes very humble about what they can and can't do. and that's certainly tags along with the idea and the theory that we want to create a safe classroom where students can fail as they learn how to succeed. And so the multiple products at the end, and you know, when you do have that rubric and you're looking at different products and maybe they weren't greatly successful, then you know, you have an opportunity to take that finished product and use that rubric as a formative assessment and then have them work on the things that they just didn't complete or did not refine or what they need to work on. I mean, that's what happens in learning, right? And it's not the be-all and end-all. So I think very important. So remember the word intentional that distinguishes cooperative learning from just random group work. So in summary, this is an important piece for cooperative learning, and whether it be the jigsaw or whatever method or variation of cooperative learning you may be using, the intentionality of what it is that you want the students to be able to accomplish. And it's just like anything else. If they can't see the importance in it, then it may just be a random act of, hey, glad we did that in class, I don't know why we did it. So as you plan your cooperative learning opportunities in class, just make sure that there's an intentional, focused outcome. You share that with the students. And it drives their collaborative efforts. And then in the end, you have an assessment that is aligned to that outcome that measures that level of intentionality. And if they don't get it right the first time, it's all right. Just keep working on it. So good luck with your cooperative learning opportunities.